This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so meeting will now start at 7:40. Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody had a good summer. Everybody stayed healthy. I was kind of really hoping that we'd be in a different state of states right now, but well, we're just gonna have to deal with where we are. So we did have a meeting last month in August. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from last meeting?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Second.
Joe has an amendment.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
It's Brian Leclerc from the Town Attorney's Office. Because we're doing these virtually, I just ask everyone to identify themselves when they make a motion, when they second a motion, before they speak, identify yourself, because for FOIA, we need to have that on the record.
Okay, cool. All right. So who had the first motion?
Me, Angela Caponera.
Who seconded it?
Seconding that.
Okay. Okay, any amendments? Joseph, you had an amendment. You sent it out via email. Would you like to voice that, please?
Yeah, I just want to amend, basically what I was trying to get across. We were hearing at the end of the meeting, and maybe I wasn't too clear, but I typed it out this evening, so I don't have a copy here.
Would you like me to read it, Joe?
Sure.
All right, so Joseph wanted a correction in the minutes from August. He said, my suggestion was that the council should pass an ordinance whereby the Conservation Commission would be asked to render an opinion when some action, event, or project was going to have an impact on the environment. Conservation has no power to pass or reject actions. Conservation does not seek to have these powers because we are not elected. However, most people named to the Conservation Commission were chosen because of their interest and knowledge in preserving all aspects of the environment. Perhaps information to the Conservation Commission would be helpful for the various town departments and town council and various boards and commissions. All right, so that was what Joe had as a amendment to the minutes of the last meeting. Any comment on that?
Good amendment.
So do you want to make that motion, Joe? That's the amendment you would like to make?
Yeah, I would like us to maybe perhaps contact council with the concept that I mentioned there, that we have some sort of, input on various things. And maybe we can provide more information when these various groups have to make a decision. I'm not looking for us to make the decisions, but just to provide more input.
Okay, so that amendment to the change actually changed to the minutes. There's really no amendment to the minutes. It's just a change. Everybody accept that change? We need a motion for that? To accept the changes? No, Joe just made an amendment, so it's changed. All right, so all in favor for the minutes?
Aye.
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 Everybody says aye. Do we have to, Brian, do we have to mention the names there too? Good.
Turn my microphone. Yes, Mr. Chairman, you should note who's voting.
Okay, so everybody say aye with your name behind it, please. Thank you.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, there might be an easier way to do it. If you could just indicate in the record which members are present, and then if it's a unanimous vote for something like this, you can just indicate that it passed X to whatever, as long as it's unanimous.
Okay, so members of the commission, we got Angela Caponera,
Yes.
we Cassandra Bryant.
No?
Cassandra's there. She said Mike's there. I thought I heard her say yes before.
Yes.
Cassandra, are you there?
Yes.
Say yay for the motion for the board minutes.
Cassandra says yay.
Okay. Karen Rodia.
Yay. Yes.
And valued customer Joe Domeno.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So all are in favor.
And Laura
Dancer
yes.
Laura Dancer votes yes. Chairman votes yes if he can vote. All right. All right. Approval of minutes from August. Let's move on to the report of the Conservation Superintendent. Kelly.
All right.
So, starting with tree, can you all see the agenda I put up on sharing my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can all just follow along. Tree City USA, the mayor has reviewed the arboricultural manual at our prodding, and the town attorney's office has also reviewed the scenario of whether that needs to be approved by town council, and it was determined that as long as we agree that to follow this arboricultural manual, it doesn't actually need to go to town council for approval. So we are ready to rock and roll. We already do a lot of the things in our arboricultural manual, and I can provide that to all of you for review as well if you'd like to review it and provide any comments moving forward. But with that last piece, we really just need an Arbor Day proclamation and celebration for April 30th. Now, you folks have been more involved with the town for longer than I. Have we done that in the past, an Arbor Day proclamation? Do you know? I looked really quickly online. I couldn't find anything. But I'll double check with the mayor's office and see what the process is for that. I can't see her saying no to that proclamation, but I don't want to speak for her. So once we get that proclamation, that'll be the last action of the 4 different items we need to apply for Tree City USA. The application period is currently open. It just opened in like last week, beginning of September. So I'm starting to look through that application and identify any other areas where we may need information as well. But it looks like things are finally pushing forward. I just have to see if we have to, I imagine we have to wait till April or April-ish to make the Arbor Day proclamation so that it's timely. Otherwise, it's kind of odd for her to make it right now. So we'll see kind of what that looks like, but have to do a little more research because the application just came out, just opened up last week or so. Coastal interpretive signage. Have you folks been to the beach? It's all installed. I'm not sure if you've seen it, what you think of it. It was a long time coming, a lot of administrative hurdles, but it's up and done, and I'm just working on some of the final reporting for grant reimbursement because we prepaid for them. What do you guys think of the signs overall? Not bad. Awesome. This is an interpretive signage throughout town. That was Tina's original hope. So we'll be looking for more opportunities for funding as the budget allows to pop up a sign here or there. We do have a sign fabricator in town that works on the highway division and public works, so we can produce them for perhaps a little bit cheaper. So something to look forward to if you guys think of some good opportunities for additional signage throughout town. Conservation easements. Had a meeting with MetroCog last week. They are still working on our internal viewer. We did just submit a letter to an abutting property owner to an easement on town property. They have encroached probably 30 feet or so. So it's kind of our first parlay, I guess, into some enforcement of the conservation easements. I don't know how much they've been enforced in the past, but this particular resident has part of their shed within the easement and has been mowing it as their lawn. So looking forward to seeing how that kind of resolves itself. Regional trails application. So we also met with MetroCog on this last week.
Hey, Kelly, where is that area being mowed, you know?
There's a conservation easement on the parcel of town property at the end of Linda's Run cul-de-sac. And I don't remember the exact address of the person encroaching. And I mean, to be fair, they purchased the property and the previous owner was already encroaching, so it's kind of snowballed, but it doesn't mean it's right. So we're just trying to rectify that. But it's on Linda's Run. So, and I'm sure there's going to be others as we start to really look at the mapping once the internal view is ready and we can start assessing all the easements. Where was I? Oh yeah, regional trails application. Also met with MetroCog on this. They have mapped all of the trails that we have asked them to map, and they have asked us if we have any others to send them along. I haven't had time yet to go through and look at what other trails we have in town. I know that we have a trail, I think, in Worcester, behind the pond. I think there's a trail there, and there's a few other small little trails I want them to add. I just want to make sure that we're somewhat maintaining them before we put them on a regional viewer. So we are fine tuning Roosevelt because Roosevelt has a big trail system, so there's some fine tuning there. Not sure exactly when the actual application will be live to the public, but I imagine within the next few months or so. There's a lot of QA/QC to be done. Sustainable Connecticut, we officially applied for the fall certification cycle mid-August. A couple of months or so. It's a very large application to review. Where there's two certification levels. There's bronze and silver. We worked really hard and we're trying to get silver. That's obviously higher than bronze, but at a minimum, we feel strongly that we will have bronze at a minimum. So we'll see how that goes.
Is there anything that needs help with that at all, Kelly?
No, we're just kind of in a holding pattern at this point. We're gonna see how we do, and if we do only get bronze, I'm sure we'll go for silver in the spring certification cycle, and that will also give us some more time over the winter to get those materials together. We, as a town, we do so many of the action items. It's really incredible. We just don't necessarily, we haven't had them in the right format for submission, and then just a matter of contacting all the different divisions and departments in the town and just compiling it all has been a bit of a challenge because we're all so busy. But we do a lot of, even for the stuff we didn't submit because we ran out of time. We do so many of the items already, which is really incredible.
The mayor had the green team. Was any of that information viable for you, or was that pertinent at all? If that information was ever disseminated to you? The mayor's.
I know that. I heard that I heard she was reforming it, and that sustainable CT certification was supposed to be one of the kind of action items of the green team, but I don't know if they ever met. I don't know what happened with that, to be honest.
Okay, all right. That's just something to look into.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm sorry, somebody out there? I keep hearing voices. Just the voices in my head.
All right. No great updates on the open space grant. Still haven't heard back from Mr. Tomasco for the parcel adjacent to Wigwam North End Park. I'm guessing it's still COVID related. I believe his father, who owns the properties, is in a nursing home, and contact has been difficult trying to get the purchase and sale agreement signed. So I'll just keep prodding until he responds at this point. We are still working on, there's a portion, I think I told you all last month, there's a portion of the 2017 grant that we received. It was 2 parcels off of James Farm Road, Peters Lane, and then 2 parcels off of Beaver Dam Road. There's a few other additional parcels on the Beaver Dam Road in addition to those 2 that we are trying to acquire in the interim and potentially use some of the money we had set aside for the Tomasco property to acquire those. As those, that will be, I think, about, off the top of my head, maybe 10 acres or so to add to Roosevelt Forest. And that property owner is really itching to sell. So I've been working with Joe Gresco and the president of the Shelton Land Trust to try and just make sure those parcels are acquired by some land conservation organization, whether it be Shelton Land Trust, because some of the parcels are in Shelton or the town of Stratford, to put into Roosevelt Forest, either way. But we did walk the property. I forget when, Jill, I'm not sure. Everything's a blur. But we did walk the property, the properties that they're looking to sell, and they are really nice, high quality habitat to add to Roosevelt Forest. I was really impressed. I mean, parts of it are right along Route 8 and hardly any invasive species. I mean, right adjacent to the highway there, but even 100 yards in, it was beautiful. I was super impressed. So it would be really great to get those properties into the Roosevelt Forest system. Go ahead, Joe.
Lots of mosquitoes. At the last state open space and watershed meeting, I asked them during the meeting, I asked DEEP to reconsider their decision to, DEEP feels that if the application is altered by 10% or more, then we couldn't take a piece of the funding and pay the motivated seller. But I took the opportunity during the course of the full meeting to broach the subject with Deep and a lot of the other people at the meeting were kind of, why aren't you letting them do that? You know, that's a great idea. So you know, the answer was no to start with. Now, I don't know if the prodding is going to work in our favor, or when the meeting was closed, you know, they were giving me the what for and saying, now we're never going to let them do anything. So you know, I don't know, but I took a shot.
All right.
I
That's good, Joe.
appreciate that. It should be a no-brainer. The goal is to preserve open space and conserve it. So, and we're trying to do that, just changing the application a little bit. We're not trying to pull a fast one over anyone, you know? So I appreciate that. Let us know how that pans out, if anything else new comes from that. All right, moving on. Unified Water Study, things are going swimmingly. No major updates or complaints. They are in Long Island Sound's report card this year will be the first year that they're going to include all the data from the Unified Water Study. So you will see in that report, they'll be given props to the town of Stratford for, I think, our 4 years of service for that. So that'll be really interesting to see how that data changes the Long Island Sound report card.
That's cool. All right. That's yeah.
Yep. They are
That'll
doing.
be through Save the Sound. That'll be Save the Sound.
Yeah, that'll be through Save the Sound, and they are doing a preview launch to the folks that actually have been collecting the data. And then I think they just announced the meeting like an hour ago. I think it's in like a week or two. So we're gonna get to preview the data before it goes live to everyone. So I'll definitely let you guys know what we find out on that.
On the Save the Sounds Facebook page, they've been updating the quote. I don't think it's the water quality, but it's water quality, but it's not maybe to the depth, pun intended, that you're looking at. But you can get on Save the Sounds Facebook page and see how the beaches and how the water's looking around Long Island Sound right now. It's pretty interesting to look at.
Cool. All right, moving on to 577 Holly Lane. Not much of an update, but I just wanted to let you guys know that after our last meeting, I did reach out to the blight enforcement officer. Not to prod him right away to look at that property, but just if that project lingers for any length of time, that we should look at it as a blight concern. So he said he'll keep his eye on it and act accordingly as he sees fit moving forward.
Yeah, it's just to keep knowing that somebody's seen it, and so nobody sits there and goes, we didn't mention it. So.
Are you more concerned about the actual building that's on the property or the encroachment of the debris that's on there? I think that the building is dangerous too.
Right. And I do know that our fire department was using it for training exercises, so they were ripping through the roof and all that too. So making the building a little bit more unsafe probably is my guess, and I'm sure there's water going in there. And but from the blight perspective, I was more worried about the building, but so we'll just
more on the safety issue is I'm just concerned on safety. If any kid gets in there and then starts playing around, gets hurt, then the town. I'm not sure who's gonna be liable. Hopefully they're gonna be liable, but hopefully the owner of the property is liable.
I mean, it's private property still, so I would hope that the town would not be a party to any liability at this point.
I could talk to the blight officer about possibly making him take that building down. Do you think that that's possible? He's not gonna
I mean,
use
as
it.
long as he has funding to do that, I don't see why he couldn't, but I'm not sure where his funding stands right now. I know the restaurant business is a little tight, so especially with COVID, I think the funding has been really hard to come by for a restaurant.
I think it's more of a food truck out there now than anything else. That's probably
right. All right, moving on to Brewster and Longbrook Pond. We finally were able to get our DEP permits. I think shortly after we met last month, and at the end of August, I think it was last Monday, they finally started treatments. Solitude finally started treatments, and those are the chemical applications. And then sometime within the next week or so, we're beginning data collection at Brewster Pond to determine if the chemical treatments are the most appropriate option, or if there are some other factors we can mitigate before the algal blooms really become a problem. So they're going to look at collecting a lot of data of all the different inputs to Brewster Pond and just trying to make an actual quantitative assessment of the system and see if there's any areas we can improve other than just kind of dumping chemicals in after the water quality becomes poor in the summer. So that's starting up, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, we're getting to the end of the season for having algal blooms anyway, so it's kind of.
Yeah, we are. But it's kind of a looking forward. Is there the things we can do to prevent some algal blooms in the future? And maybe there aren't, but at least we'll know. All right. Inland Wetlands membership, we have 2 members that are up for renewal. And initially we had thought that there was a member that was not interested in serving anymore, as he had not been to any meetings, but I was able to touch base with him and he has reaffirmed his commitment to serve. So we still do need, by our town code, we still do need a member from Conservation Commission to serve on inland wetlands. So I'm working with the council clerk to figure out how we can fulfill that requirement. It looks like we have been non-compliant for several years now, so I guess it hasn't really hurt anyone, but we'd like to be in compliance with the town code. So more to come on that as that develops, but eventually we'll get one of you in there.
Yeah, okay.
Sent a recommendation to the mayor, right? And then she approves it. So maybe someone we could find out who's interested on this committee right now.
Yep, we do have interest from Angela already. We
Okay.
just need to figure out the appropriate way to, I don't want to say kick someone out of inland wetlands, but we have to figure out how to rearrange the membership structure. So I've been working with Margot on the council clerk, just looking into how we can do that properly and fairly.
Okay. Just pick them off.
So that easy. All right, and now the star of the show, Hickory Woods Cell Tower. And that's why Brian Leclerc is here. He's been working on that arrangement and he is more familiar than I with the details of the application and can answer any questions that you may have on it.
Okay, thank you, Brian, for coming. Again, the council was looking, the commission was just looking to get any information. So can you just give us an overview, and then if any of the commissioners have any questions?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Brian Leclerc from the Town Attorney's Office. The town has negotiated a lease with Crown Castle Towers 06-2 LLC for construction of a monopole cell tower on certain town property on Hickory Woods Lane. It went for an 824 review back in July with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. If you're familiar with the property, and Kelly, did you share that picture that we received this afternoon to the commissioners from, are you able to put that up on the screen?
Yes, well, you can keep talking. I'll play with this.
Keep talking. I'll put a picture up to better orient you with this. There are some cell towers in the area right now. The towers currently are attached to a United Illuminating transmission line that goes through the area adjacent to the town property. They are looking to get the cell tower off of the transmission lines and put it up on a monopole tower, the same height within 5 feet one way or the other of the existing tower height. It's going to be going into an area that will be an access road off of Hickory Woods Lane. And there's a map coming up now. So if you see the map, you see a circle at the top portion of the aerial view. That strip of land, there's a red dot and then a blue line to the right of it. That's a area where there are transmission lines from United Illuminating right now. And the red dot is the location of the current cell tower on one of those lines. You can see a little winding road coming in along that property that's adjacent to a school and a playing field as well. The proposal is to move that tower down to the right above the words Town of Stratford in that area where there's a little pin or peg. That's deep in off of Hickory Woods Lane. The actual property required would be a lease of about a 60 by 60 foot piece of land. and a right-of-way with others over a dirt road across, or a paved road, I should say, across the property, coming in from Hickory Woods Lane. The actual fenced-in area where the cell tower would be located and the associated equipment is 50 by 50 feet. And that would be a fenced and gated area within the town's property. So a relatively small piece of land. Utilities, we're going to request go underground from Hickory Woods to the extent they can. I believe Hickory Woods may have underground utilities already. Just electricity and telephone need to get into there. And the recommendation would be as well that there be a gate put across the access driveway from Hickory Woods so people could not drive onto the town property or get on with any type of a vehicle. So that's basically what the proposal is for. There would be a positive cash flow to the town on a yearly basis, and it would just simply move an existing cellular communications tower from on top of the UI transmission lines in the area by the school down into the Hickory Woods area.
Are they going to have a containment building there too? Because normally the tower has a concrete block or a movable building that stands right there next to it.
Yeah, that would be within that 50 by 50 foot area, the electronic building, I call that, correct?
Right. Yeah. Okay. And the fence will have a certain height to it because again, this is high voltage and high, the EMF and all kinds of stuff that comes out of that. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, and that's a good point, Mr. Chairman. They do have to go before the siting council, which is rather strict on these types of applications. So the siting council would have to review this and review all the aspects of it. But there would be a high fence to keep anyone who wanders in the woods from tampering with the equipment or getting into the equipment in the building.
I have a question.
Angela. Angela.
So when you say high fence, what type of fence? Is it going to be wood, metal?
It's typically a chain link type fence for durability on these.
And how tall? 5 feet, 6 feet?
I don't have the height yet negotiated. It's it's tall enough, I know, to keep folks from getting in, climbing over it, or easily jumping over it, or animals jumping over it, getting in.
It's usually an 8-foot
they
fence.
can hurdle. Okay.
I'm sorry, it's usually what?
Usually 8-foot fence. I can give a little bit more insight on this is because we have a cell tower at the zoo that was Crown Castle. I'm not sure they owned it any longer, but it was Crown Castle. So again, yeah, the site is usually got some kind of aggregate down to keep from being muddy. There's usually again, an 8-foot high fence around the top, barbed wire on top. We have barbed wire on top. The building is again secured, and again, as safe as safe can be, as safe as it can be. My question is the paved road. Is the paved road? It's just like just a 8-foot wide, just for a truck to get in there for service.
That's all, a small road. Whether it's paved with asphalt or an aggregate, we'll have to negotiate that with them. But it's just big enough for them to get a truck in there for routine maintenance. That's all.
And again, I'm just talking here, but I would, if I had my druthers, I would not go with a paved road, just for runoff and trying to keep things going back into the soil as best we can. Also, my concern would be kids using it as a skateboard, beautiful place to go skateboarding and anything else they want to do, scootering down that pathway. So I would go aggregate, for both reasons.
That's what we are suggesting to them, and we'll put in the agreement.
Okay.
Paved with some stone or rock or whatever it is.
We have a question from Joe Cresco. Joe?
Finished.
No, and so let Joe has his hand up.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Does this still need any type of P&Z approval after siting council approval, or because it's town property, you don't need it?
No, that's correct. I don't believe they do because it's siting council approval rather than local planning and zoning on it.
So as the Conservation Commission, I might suggest that I'm assuming there are a certain amount of trees in that Hickory Woods are going to be taken down. Maybe a caveat that says, you don't have to replace every one of them, but how about replacing the trees in other areas of town that we know, right tree in the right place, as a kind of a show of good faith.
We could request that. I know the town is getting a payment from the
Right.
company every year once the tower is moved and goes in. So there is cash coming into the town.
And Brian, is there in the town, I'm not sure, again, this question, is there a height restriction or a height thing that the town, they have to stay underneath?
Yeah, the height, it's going to be, right now the height is 135 feet, and they will be within 5 feet of the existing height. The monopole is, they're planning to build about 135-foot monopole, and that's within 5 feet, plus or minus of where it is right now.
Okay. And one more question, and I'll not monopolize this, but Kelly, on the other side where the tower used to be, or where the tower is, where they have it attached to the regular power line tower, does that road, the road that's existing there to the red dot, is that a service road for the tower that's there now, or the communications part of that? Is that what the road's there for now?
Yes, I believe it also serves, or it's utilized by the utility company to get down that right of way as well. Usually they try and maintain somewhat of a roadway for them to get through there.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was going to be remediation needed on that roadway or anything. If there's no reason for people to drive down there anymore, then we have a roadway going to nowhere. But if they're still utilizing it, then that kind of mutes the point. Okay, Angela, I'm sorry, I think we cut you off.
No, okay, I can't see because I'm on my cell phone, so, I was just gonna ask, has there been any trouble with, kids going into the old site or any kind of trespassing?
TVs.
I'm not aware of anything. Kelly, I don't know if you've gotten complaints about folks on that property at all.
No, I haven't heard of anything on either of the two parcels, actually.
There's no hunting in that area or lack of illegal, whether is there?
There shouldn't be any hunting on town property, but I do know that there's some hunting going on within the right.
There was a request made last year by someone to hunt on that property, which which you will recall.
Yeah.
Greg, I have a question.
Yes, Karen Rodia, question.
Is moving the cell tower, is this going to improve the quality of signal in that area? There's over between Whippoorwill and all that, it's like a dead zone. And is that the rationale behind moving it, or is it just a new company?
No, it would be the relocation of an existing tower. So I assume that's why they want to move it, because the transmission lines aren't going anywhere. So there must be a reason why they are moving it from spending the money to move it. I would assume that's what the reasoning is for.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some serious dead zones that are actually dangerous to our first responders. In not too far from there, and I just wondered if that was the rationale for the change.
Could be.
I don't know. I know that that's the only time I've negotiated several of these, and that's typically why a company looks to put a tower in or makes a site acquisition or a lease. It's to improve cell service or to fill in a zone where there is none.
All right, thank you.
And Brian, what's the extent of the lease? Is there a time frame on this?
Yeah, it's looking at the notes here, my notes on it. I was just going to call that up. I know that the rent I'll give you the rent is $475,000 over 20 years paid to the town of Stratford. And there were a number of renewal periods on it. It's still under negotiation, but it's a long-term lease being proposed. I'm looking right now for my last notes on that.
That's about the number. That's right, the right number. Yeah. Yeah,
it starts about, I think it's the initial term is 25 years, and then there are renewal options, and the renewal term is another period of 25 years after that.
These companies just they shift a lot. So it'll be one company, and then they'll sell it to somebody else, and they'll sell it to somebody else, and then back around again. So, but that doesn't make a difference on the tower itself, and there's no reach because it's buried down deep in the woods. There's no really again, what we did when we did ours, we insisted that become a flagpole, so it would be at least something that didn't look like a big, huge cell tower, but I don't see that is applicable here at all. on this
I actually
property.
had that discussion with them, Mr. Chairman, about using a tree versus some of these towers look like trees or as close as they can to a tree. The company indicates that they can bring that up with the state, but they probably would not bring it to the siting council because their experience is the siting council does not like the trees because the trees have to be significantly higher than a monopole because
they never look like a tree. They never.
And they never look right. You know because they
look worse.
It's like a bottle brush.
Joe,
so that's where they won't.
Joe Gresco had another question.
No, I was just saying that it was like that the height is the difference.
130.
That one on 287 when you go on over New York and you buy the rest stop or
Yeah. It's a 130-foot bottle brush.
Okay.
So it's
Sure.
and then it turns out that the ospreys try to nest in it or birds try to nest in it, and then there's all kinds, which is not a bad thing, but then the companies get all kinds of upset. So let them go to where they naturally should go. Any more questions for Brian?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Kelly.
There was interest in putting a conservation easement on this property just to protect it moving forward. I understand it's a very high quality piece of property with great habitat value for some listed species such as the eastern box turtle. How do you think that we could still move forward with something like that and perhaps carve off this lease area, or how do you see that being able to play out in the future potentially?
Good point.
Well, if the town were to put a conservation easement on the property, you can always, it would be subject to anything on the property already. So if you have, certain rights under the lease, we couldn't encumber those rights with that easement. You could affect and encumber the rest of the property with the conservation easement. So that would not keep you from doing that. The fact that there's a portion of a roadway to get in, plus the building, plus the tower, you can still put an easement around that.
Okay. And so far in this whole process, do you have a sense for what the siting council might think? I know that in the area near where that pinpoint is, there is a swath of wetlands that are mapped. So do you guys have a sense yet of what the siting council might bring up or how that process might go?
I don't, and that would be the applicant that would go to the siting council. The town wouldn't present the case for them. They would do that.
Like Kelly said, that is an issue. That is a lot of wetlands back there, and all that property kind of drains that way. It's all flowing that way already. So there's quite a bit of habitat in there. So. And
I'm sure they thought out the location and have a very good reason why there. They've looked at the site. I mean, there's such a big parcel of land for the town. They're keeping it away from houses, obviously, far away as possible, and near the utility easement as well.
So for us, the size of the road, the type of the road would be consideration because of the habitat that would be lost through there. And once the pole is up, there is some people that will say the poles are not good for wildlife. Not sure if I agree or disagree with that. But again, there is the pole already there. There already is a transmission on the other side of the road. It's just not a pole. It's just attached to the power line. So,
and there's a large swath of power lines going right through there too, as well. Remember,
which is got its own set of problems.
Right.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
And I can add, Mr. Chairman, this is going to it has to have a public hearing under one of the state statutes. And that will happen at the next council meeting on Monday night, before the next council meeting, I should say. And then the council will take it up Monday night as well. Has there been
any comment from the neighbors, any people that will have the public hearing? But is there anything prior to that that's come up to you or to the?
I know there was one inquiry about it from a neighbor that was passed on to the administration. And I should note that we've also erected a sign on Hickory Woods so the neighbors can drive by and see that there's a public hearing and that there is a proposal for a cell tower. That's required under one of the state statutes as well.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to send this to town council?
You don't, council member because no, it does. It is not required to come before the Conservation Commission at this
Right.
point.
Which is why Joe wants that ordinance. All right, yeah. All right, so again, thank you, Brian, for your information. Again, last call. Anybody have any questions?
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the information and your comments regarding the roadway, the tree replacement, things like that. We will take that into consideration in the negotiations.
Yeah, we truly appreciate that. And if anybody has any other questions that come up after this meeting, please forward them on to Kelly, and she'll get them on to Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, moving on. Kelly, I want to thank you for a couple things. One, your report. There was a lot of stuff on that report. You guys are tremendously busy, so I appreciate the work you're doing for the town. Second, thank you for bringing Brian in. I think that was very valuable for having him come in. I think, as Joe mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, this is maybe where we want to start, at least showing that there's other people in the town that are concerned with things of this nature, pun intended again. And that way, maybe it's something that we would do a little more often instead of just, saying something's happening without our input. So again, I thank you for bringing Brian in tonight.
For sure. Just as a sidebar to that too, typically for at least like P&Z applications that don't require inland wetlands, the staff over in that department will send stuff to me just for my general comment, just for general environmental concerns. So I usually have that bit of input, but obviously it's not coming before the entire commission. It's just my own thoughts.
Okay. All right, old business. I did send you all, you may have gotten it just right before the meeting, the last minutes of the last bird program for piping plovers and the shorebirds from the Audubon. So if you had a chance just to peruse that, that's really just basically for general information on what's been going on as they close up the season. I think they're going to want volunteers. I haven't heard the call come out yet, but now that the basically season is wrapped up or wrapping up, they were going to look for volunteers to help take all the fencing down, which is putting it up and taking it down is their most biggest call sometimes for volunteers to come in. So we'll send that out on the Conservation Commission Facebook page to let people know that when that is occurring. So again, they did have a good season. Have seen piping plovers running around on the beaches. Lots of oyster catchers this year. Terns, least terns, also very good. And my favorite bird is the black skimmers. They haven't nested here, but lots and lots of black skimmers up and down the river this year, which is heartening to see that happen. All right. And then we had open space inventory update. I don't think we have much on that right now, except for we just talked about a few minutes ago. Anything else on that? We did, I'll just go back, and it's on old business was this, it's not really on there, but it's the, I've asked to see about getting some of those fishing line tubes donated so I can get them up around Worcester Pond. And we'll just have to see how we can keep that area cleaned up. I'll have to see if I can drive by every once in a while just to empty out the line, because not only line gets into, like I mentioned before, but it becomes a garbage disposal for everybody walking by for cans and bottles and everything else. But I've asked some people that have made these for me in the past to make them for me now, and I'll see what we can do about getting those there. I do want to take a picture. This is just a sidebar. Sorry about that, but a sidebar. Every day I go out to the park, Beardsley Park, and I ride my bike out, and I go by signs that we've erected. And Kelly, this is for putting the signs up and stuff. I go by the sign that we erected that says, "Do not feed the waterfowl. This is bad, 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 bad," in Beardsley Park. And please put your fishing line in this container. And I ride by almost every day, and guess what they're doing right by the sign? Feeding the ducks. It's almost amazing to me that the guy today was leaning against the pole that says, "Do not feed the ducks," feeding the ducks. Just,
Hello, how are you?
makes you a little crazy sometimes. But if I get those donated, I will let you know, Kelly, because I definitely probably have to go through Parks or Public Works. I just don't want them erected and then somebody having who put these things there. So we'll look at that.
Yeah, we actually were talking about installing one of those recycling bins as well, because we did have, I think it was a few months ago, we had a bird hanging from a tree wrapped in monofilament that we had to get down, which was unpleasant. So we've been engaging in some conversation with some of the residents over there about that park in general, trying to fix it up. So I appreciate that. Keep me in the loop on that.
Okay, yep. I had to do the same thing in Beardsley Park. I had a gull hanging by a tree a couple of years ago myself. So fun.
Yeah, terrible.
All right. Anything else on old business?
I just want to say I biked by that turtle sign you guys were all talking about going into the marsh.
Yeah.
Why is it miniature size as opposed to a regular size? So like you guys are talking about painting the stripes and doing all this and that. I don't understand, like, why can't we make a big wildlife sign then? Or if we're really trying, it seems like it's a diminished, like someone put it up, like it's not for real.
Yeah, Cassandra, I think you're right. And the reason is because the signs, when you're buying them, if you buy a sign, which is a lot cheaper, they'd only make them in that size. I mean, if you go online, want to buy a sign to do this, you cannot get a sign that's a good size sign. So if you want one that's ready made, you have to go with the sign, the size they have. However, I'm looking again at getting some bigger signs for next breeding season. Actually, and again, sidebar.
I just want to say it, but like just with what you just said, like it doesn't matter how big the sign is or if you write it or not, like the guy's sitting there feeding the ducks. So
I know, but here's the deal: you have to try. You have to try. Exactly. Yeah. I've got Joseph.
The smaller size was decided upon because every time they put in a larger sized sign, a week later it's stolen.
That's right. It's in a dorm room somewhere.
Yeah, it's in a dorm room somewhere. So I also sit on I would say there's a group that DOT that is talks about the Burma Road, and that was one of the things that we decided as far as the sign size. I also brought up the I can't remember who it was. I think it was someone from this commission that said, why can't you just paint turtle crossing sign on the Burma Road itself? Still working on that one. And then I'm going with the tunnels first, and if they scoff at the tunnels, then I'll say, well, then just paint something on the road as a compromise. So
that's a good way to go into it, Joe. Digging tunnels or painting some signs. I think.
Yeah, but
negotiate.
Good negotiation, yeah.
Signs. The last time we put the big signs, within 2 weeks they were both gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no,
this and you notice they're a little bit higher as well than the other. You're not going to just be able to get out of your vehicle and get a wrench and pop it off. You're going to have to get on a ladder, and hopefully.
Yeah, that was a smart move. That was a smart move to do that. One of the sidebars, again, I'm working on with, there's a gentleman named Lonnie McCaskill. He is the curator of reptiles at the Prospect Park Zoo in New York. And he's doing aerial drone surveys of diamondback terrapins in the marshes around Long Island down in New York. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. The fact on his Facebook page, he has pictures of the drone and how you can see the turtles in the marsh from with the drone. So I was looking to see if he would, if that was a study that they were doing that we could maybe jump in on in Stratford and have him come do it in the Housatonic, because there's an awful lot of diamondback terrapins that are there and in the marsh. Turns out that he was just practicing because he was supposed to go do a Siamese crocodile study using the drone to get the population of Siamese crocodiles, and COVID knocked him out, so we could not do that. So he's been just practicing on diamondback terrapins. So Joe, if you hear anything from Deep, the zoo would be, and I think the zoo and maybe even the Conservation Commission would be interesting in seeing if we're doing a study on diamondback terrapins in the river. They are a turtle of special concern in Connecticut. So just as something, I just think it'd be fun to do, especially with doing the water quality. You kind of start to build a a cohesive picture of things. When you start doing water quality and then a survey of the critters that are in there and all that kind of stuff, it really adds, I think, some value when you have data that can justify if you're going to try to save or work on anything. So just a little aside. As everybody knows here, I do aside all the time.
I actually recently learned that one of the guys I did some research with when I was in my undergrad, he's actually doing some Diamondback terrapin surveys in Stratford, kind of out of his own pocket and out of donations. I just learned about this in the past month. I haven't been able to actually sit down and talk with him about it,
Cool.
but he is really passionate about these turtles, and I really would like to get into his data set and try and share resources if we can. So
That's
more
excellent.
to
So
come.
let's talk about that, because Lonnie said he'd come down and do a couple flyovers. I just saw some breeding Diamondback terrapins yesterday, and it was pretty cool. It's a little late in the season, but they're still going at it. One of the old business was on our meeting times. Eileen did a doodle poll. I don't know how many people actually did it. And I'd like to come to some conclusion at this meeting about the timing of the meetings. And again, I have to defer to Kelly whether or not that has to then go to, where's that got to go for people to post it, making sure that we're doing this the right way if we change the times. So two things.
Every meeting would be a special meeting.
So that's right. Every meeting would be a special. That's what Karen. I mean, that's what we were just talking about. Every meeting would be a special meeting, right, Laura?
Until next year.
Every meeting would have to be a special meeting because it'd be diverting from our published list, right? Okay. So
you can still do it.
So my question is, do we want to change the time? When we're doing it on Zoom, I'm sitting there going, it would be nice to do it at 6 because, you know, to me, it's you're done with dinner and you're sitting at home. If we were doing it at town hall, then maybe 7:30 still makes sense. So I do bring this up to the group for your discussion.
Greg, I have a comment.
Okay, Karen.
It's time for us to start preparing our 2021 calendar, and that would be the appropriate time to make a sweeping change like that, instead of limiting what you can talk about at your meetings from now until the end of the year. If you change it for next year, it's on the calendar right from the get-go, as long as we vote on it.
Okay. And again, like you said, Karen, we're getting, not necessarily has to happen right this minute. So Kelly put up the doodle poll Eileen sent out, and it looks like 6 o'clock. If you just go by the numbers, 6 o'clock is the preferred time, which I think would be a good time. So I'm not sure if that comes to a vote.
Greg, excuse
yes.
me, Greg.
Go ahead.
This is Aileen.
Aileen.
Aileen Marsh, Secretary. Yeah. So before, normally what I do for I had previously done for my other committees is you say, this is the calendar of your meetings for the following year, and it's going to be the first, whatever it might be, the second Tuesday of every month at whatever time in whatever location. I had a conversation with Margot, the council clerk, as recently as about 4 or 5 hours ago. She and Brian Leclerc are actually looking to determine if all that information is necessary. In that, what you as a council, you as a commission may need to only say, we agree to meet on the second Tuesday of every month, and listing all the dates, I would do that. But Brian's looking to determine if you actually need to say at a specific time and at a specific location.
I think probably you're right
Just
on a specific location. Because of the COVID, I think that's probably driving that, because we know where a location would be. I see where you have the specific time is because if it is published, how would people find if they're public that want to listen in or come to a meeting? How would they find out? It'd just be posted on the time and place.
Because it would still be posted with the
Oh,
town
the-
clerk, and it would be posted online that you're still meeting on the second
Okay.
Tuesday of every month. And then if they wanted to, then they could go either to town hall or online to look
Okay.
for that second Tuesday, what the agenda is for the specific time and location.
Okay.
And again, it may need to be done, the way it's been done for 30 years, but it may not. So
Cool.
I'll let you
All right.
know.
So, any other discussion on this? Because I think what we do right now is probably just stay the course for the rest of the year. And then if everybody right now would be in accordance, we would then switch to a 6 o'clock meeting. And that way I can get to bed at earlier hour, which is nice. But again, if there's any, so we can either vote on this now, or we can wait on it and see if anything changes. So why don't we just put this on the side burner for now until we have to make a decision on when we put the calendar for next year, and then we'll bring it back up. Does that sound good?
Maybe we can ask to get the opinion from Brian.
Right, and then
Find
that opinion will then be then. Okay, cool. All right. Any other anything from old business? Joseph. Valued customer Joseph.
Every once in a while, we talk about the problems and the vandalism in all of our parks at one time or another. And we kick around the idea of some sort of park police. I'd like to ask Laura how the Hoyok administration feels about the concept of maybe having retired Stratford police serve in some capacity as park police. The reason why I say that is because if there's some interest there, they probably want that information before budget time, if they're thinking about bringing it up. And perhaps we can be doing some thinking and talking about it and collecting some information to give to the mayor.
Yes,
So
you're
what-
right. It would be something that would be proposed at budget time. It would be an increase of personnel. So I would have to talk with the mayor about it to see how, if that was even possible to do. Maybe a statement from the Conservation Commission stating why this is something that we feel we need and how it would benefit the town overall would be something that we could use to make the request.
Okay, because what I was thinking, if we were going to do the research on it, we could perhaps contact all the other park commissions in town.
Well, I was wondering about Roosevelt Forest in particular with the Jared Dog Park.
Thank you.
No, Joe, I think you're right. I think what we do have to do some investigation, see whether the towns have, like Trumbull. We know Trumbull has a park group, park police group, and what other people do, and what do we believe would be the minimal coverage we would need. How many people I think we'd have to do some homework.
You have to include the beach and how you would want the beaches.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, it's. I think we'd have to do some homework and some legwork and figure it out what would be an effective use of anybody in the town, and how many people would that be in the hour. So let's. I know we've talked about it, and we always say it, and then we kind of come back to it another 3 months later, and then another 3 months later after that. But let's.
I mean, I agree that it would be something that would, I think it's necessary right now, especially with the Jared Dog Park over there at Roosevelt Forest, and then somebody who would actually get out of their car and maybe walk the beach or whatever. But I don't know if we could do a full-time person that would require benefits and stuff. I mean, it's a huge.
Let me talk to a specific council person that I know and see if we can put something together. All right. Let me see if we can work it out and get some numbers and along those lines. And that kind of just throws me into anything else in old business?
Okay. Laura, can I just jump on what you said?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw the post today in Stratford Ladies. Somebody was complaining about the bus station outside of Walmart.
Yeah.
And maybe if, again, if we did get a conservation, I don't want to say officer, but like, again, a park ranger, if that would cover that as well.
Hmm.
Not only the parks.
I look at that as more safety, but that's what, but again,
I mean, this person wouldn't have arresting authority or.
Well,
No,
just, yeah. I'm sorry, Ange, go finish up. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, just to save all the griping and whining on social media, is again somebody who would go around not only to the parks, but again, like the bus stop at Walmart, if they catch anybody leaving carts or dumping garbage or, would that be covered under, I mean, Trumbull has the park rangers. Would that be covered under a park ranger, or again, would it be Blight? Who would take care of that?
Let's think about that and see how it works. Because again, if you go, I kind of agree with the Ange, if you can combine it into a couple more functions as one or two, that makes it more palatable for a budget. So let's take a look at that.
I could bring it up at public safety as well, with the police department and see what
let's
they
do that.
could do.
Okay, Laura and I will work on that and we'll bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay.
Ideas. And that, one thing that Laura just brought up, Kelly, anything on the issues on the dog park? How's that going? Do you have any clues or any?
Yeah. Overall, I've heard things are going well. The original agreement was that the volunteers were going to clean up the garbage, and we're getting a lot of complaints about garbage, and now they're asking the town to take care of the garbage, and I'm not really, I'm kind of on the sideline for these discussions, so I'm just kind of hearing them. I'm not really the main person engaged with them, because that's the park superintendent that would go to. But I'm not sure if that has been resolved or where that stands. The last I heard was probably sometime early last week or later the week before that we were getting garbage complaints. So I'm not really sure where that is, but I can find out for you. But I do know the original agreement was the volunteers were supposed to clean up the garbage, but it is on town property, so I'm not sure how that's going to be resolved.
Yeah, I'm not shocked even in a little bit least of it. The concern I have on our side is more, where does that trash end up? All it's got to do is go over the fence and it's into the wetlands right there. It's all wetlands right around that park. Yep. So to me, that is a concern. I haven't seen the dog park people have been out there saying, we need more volunteers, we need more volunteers, we need help clean. And I know how that works. I'm sad to say I know how that works.
I know. In the inland wetlands application for that project, there is a stipulation that the agent, being myself or the commission, can shut down the dog park if it is deemed that it is becoming a negative effect on the water quality, because there's a water course that runs through the dog park. So
I totally agree. What'd you say, Joe? You have your support? I let Joe Cresco take the lead on that one, boy.
Yeah.
I'm on mute for a reason.
Yeah. Oh man, that have to be a big reason to do. Oh, that's okay. All right. Well, that was my concern. It's a.
Is there any way to tell if it's out of towners? There's no way to stop an out of towner from going there. There's nobody checking stickers there. No. So that's my concern for the conservation officer that we were talking. It would be somebody.
It's the park. It's the park. It's the dog park. It's the whole thing.
Roosevelt Forest Committee is also working with the chief of police. They're trying to get cameras down at the Roosevelt Forest parking lot and Jared's Dog Park parking lot, and I don't know where that stands either, because I'm also just on the sidelines seeing the conversation kind of happen. So that may help, but a lot of that comes down to police enforcement, and the police don't enforce the laws. No. I don't know what else there is to do.
Right. It's not just trash. It's not just the trash I'm talking about in the dog park. It's the fecal material. It's all that stuff that is going to.
You got fecal material in plastic bags now. That's like too bad.
Yeah. All right.
I can't tell you because we've been using it a lot. The parking enforcement does come through on a regular basis. Yeah. I don't know how well they're checking stickers or anything like that, but I know they do come through pretty regularly.
Okay. All right. Yeah, not trying to cause trouble with it, but it's just, again, you kind of figure where this was going to lead, and it's kind of leading right about where I thought it would lead to. So, okay, cool. I I did say, I put something up on our, the Conservation Commission site on the PPE. Again, that seems to now, it's taken place of straws and bottles and everything else. You've got the masks everywhere, everywhere. That's going to calm down a little bit along the beaches and a little bit along some of the areas in conservation, because people won't be going out as much, but as it gets colder, but still it's, it really got bad very, very quickly. People just take them off and throw them out the window, and it's, you know, not good. So I put something on conservation on our Facebook page. Again, we're not seeing that many people look at the Facebook page, so it's not as effective as a media than I'd like it to be. And we're trying to figure out a way that we can boost that up a little bit. And if we do, we have to contact. Thank Angela for putting stuff on there, you know, and I know other people have put stuff on there, but again, it's one of those things that unless we get a good amount of people, like you said, the Stratford Good Answers, Stratford Ladies, there's a lot of people on. Ours doesn't get that quite as many.
I mean,
know
Greg,
Kelly had something about an oak tree that was dying, and it was on somebody's property, and she got the conservation woman or whatever you were given the call that why isn't this tree being taken down? It's dying. It's crazy. You also can't be on those pages too long or you'll lose your mind.
I'm going to email you tomorrow, Kelly, about a couple. Sorry.
All right. All right. Any new business? Other new business?
I just have a quick question. Are the sticker checkers no longer working at the beaches right now? Does anybody know?
As of Labor Day, it's supposed to not be.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's been the course.
I'm sorry.
I thought that it was until November 1st.
Excuse me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is Aileen. Angela, was your question, are they checking for stickers at Shore Beach?
Correct, in Long Beach.
The answer is yes, they are, per the mayor, through September 30th.
Okay.
Oh, good.
All right.
I think that was just a new ordinance.
That's good because that's, I know a lot of other places, Labor Day is the end and that's done. And there's going to be a flood of people.
But she extended it apparently. That's great.
There's going to be a flood of people that are going to be going into parks that are not checking from people from out of town. It's already happened today. The people realize that it's open, they'll go. All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Okay. And I had the email conversation about the Yukon Conservation Training Program, CTP. It's a mouthful. Kelly, you were asking me about the grass cutting. When you're on Russian Beach looking out, it was the grassy area, like right at the top where they have the benches and the flagpoles.
Okay, so that's Lordship Improvement Association property. I don't believe that's town property.
Okay.
But I'll look into it, and maybe we can have a conversation with the LIA to see if they can do some more conservation mowing or something of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Go ahead.
And Cassandra, you had that spot that was down by
Down over there off of Route 130. By the looks of it, it seems like it's going to end up being a state road easement area since it is a state road. I'm assuming that it would be really hard to even plant something there, let alone get rights. It's probably like a right of way or a visibility thing. But there are parcels there, but as I said, they're kind of small and that right of way.
I think one of the things, and it just brings up as a new business, one of the things we should look at is when you're driving around town, look at those little squares, those little areas that can be a pollinator area or something. We could plant something besides grass that doesn't have to be whacked down all the time. And we just put a list together, and then we go back and through safety and everything else, see if it's something we can do. Doesn't take a whole heck of a lot to do these.
To say it as new business then, and then there's a street right over here. It's called Garden Street Extension. The name of the street's Garden. That's perfect. There's a giant esplanade. All of the trees are dying on it. There's wires above it, so you can't do anything too crazy, but it's right there off of the main road. So I don't know. How do we start a list? You want me to start one and get it going.
I think Cassandra, you moving around town, everybody moving around town, just get the, either GPS coordinates or whatever and mark it down. And then again, we put a list together and see what happens. Kelly?
I do know that in the past, there have been areas that we have tried to establish as a pollinator pathway, and we received so many complaints that we were forced to mow. So
Yeah.
a lot of that's an education, like everything else that is wrong with the world, is an educational issue.
Well, and it is, because what happens is
Kevin,
people
you're really planting trees there, Kelly.
I want everything to look manic.
people look at it, they think it's weeds. That's one.
Mhm.
Two, it becomes a nightmare for public works because the trash gets inside of it, and now you got to try to get in there to get the trash. So you got plastic bags, you got cups, you got bottles, you got to dig your way through these weeds. Yeah, nip. I mean, so yeah, it is pretty much a nightmare, and the only way you could do that is to find some spots and have somebody adopt it and then maintain it. So and just like dog park, we know how that'll end up. So.
Can I just jump in on this? I finally went back and looked at the conservation plan that was sent out during Mayor Harkin's administration. And there is one map in there that breaks the town down very nicely, actually, into sectors. So like they have the strip sector along Barnum Avenue, Lordship, Marshland. So if we want to use that, if you want me to take a picture and email to everybody, kind of use that as kind of like a bouncing off point.
Where did you find it? You found it on the town website?
No. It was in the conservation plan that Mayor Harkins had put together. That big white binder thing, totally.
Yeah. That should be on the website too, someplace.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, that's on the website under the planning department's page.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. But again, it breaks the town down into sectors. So if you kind of want to use that as a jumping off point.
That sounds like it's
Cool. All right.
good.
All right. Anything else? Any other issues?
Nope.
All right. Well, everybody have a great rest of the month, and we will reconvene in October. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy. That's all we can do right now. Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
All right. Thank
Motion
you.
to adjourn. Have a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Joe, the valued customer, Domeno, motions, and I think Joe and Laura seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.